You know, I speak to so many people about the real meaning of Easter. I'm talking about, obviously, the birth and the death and the resurrection of Jesus Christ. And the majority of people I speak to be honest, are just very ignorant of facts. They haven't read the Bible. They haven't studied it. They just have some opinion, maybe what they heard from somebody or maybe what they formed in their own mind. But when I think about the evidence of Christ, one of the biggest evidences, of course, is the prophecies that were given about him. There were 300 prophecies about his first coming. There are also 300 prophecies about his second coming, by the way. But his first coming, every one of those prophecies was fulfilled. Now, I've talked to people about this, and of course, at Easter time, Palm Sunday, the week before, he rode into Jerusalem on a donkey. Now, that was prophesied. We're talking about hundreds of years before Jesus came. These prophecies were given by Isaiah, by many of the prophets of old. And, of course, when he rode into Jerusalem on a donkey, people could say, well, he fulfilled that prophecy himself. He knew that, and so he got that donkey. But, let's be honest. It was prophesied that he'd be born in Bethlehem. Prophesied he'd be born of a virgin. People say, well, how do you know Mary was a virgin? Okay, but he was prophesied he was born in Bethlehem. Bethlehem. Now, of course, he couldn't arrange that himself. It was also prophesied that he'd be raised in a town called Nazareth. I mean, there's so many prophecies about his life, but his public ministry for 3.5 years, 3.5 very short years, and of course, wonderful prophecies about his death and resurrection. It was prophesied that he'd be sold for 30 pieces of silver, which, of course, Judas did. And not only that, but it was prophesied that he'd be crucified with thieves. As you know, there are 2 thieves that were crucified with him, one on his left, one on his right. One of them was ridiculing him. The other one said, Lord, remember me when you come into your kingdom, recognizing that Jesus had a kingdom. And the Lord, of course, said to him, today you shall be with me in paradise. It was prophesied, we're talking prophecies of hundreds of years before he came, that the soldiers would gamble for his clothing. Amazing. And they did. They gambled for the cross for his clothing. It was prophesied that he'd be buried in a rich man's tomb, which he was. Prophecies that he could never arrange by himself. I mean, so many of them, 300 of them. They say, it's mathematically impossible for those prophecies to be fulfilled by one person in their lifetime. And they say even for 8 of those prophecies, for 8 of them, I could go on, but you need to read the Bible for yourself and study for yourself. But for 8 of those prophecies be fulfilled, they say it's like putting, the state of Texas, it's a huge state, right? Putting ping pong balls 1 meter high all over the state of Texas and marking one of them with the next, jumping out of a helicopter, plunging down and into that meter, Texas covered with ping pong balls, and finding that one marked with the next first time shot. That's just 8 of any person in the world fulfilling 8 of those prophecies, let alone 300. It's just impossible. If you study, you will find that there's evidence that demands a verdict. Jesus Christ not only died for the sins of mankind, but of course came back to life, was resurrected. That's what Easter is all about, the death and the resurrection of Jesus Christ. So I encourage people to pick up the Bible and read it for yourselves. Read about the miracles of Christ. Read about his life, what he did. In 3.5 years, he turned the world up the right way. Unbelievable. And, I want to encourage you also to read about the prophecies concerning his second coming, because he is coming again. And of course, he told us in the days which he'd come to be wars and rumors of wars, there'd be earthquakes in various places, exactly what's happening in the world today. But, I just want to encourage you at this Easter time to get along to a church and give your life to Christ, because unless you're born again, unless you give your life to Christ, Jesus himself said you cannot enter the kingdom of heaven. That's why he came. To pay for the price for the sin of mankind, for your sin and my sin. But you have to accept that gift. It's like at Christmas time, you've got to unpackage the gift that's given to you. And, Jesus Christ was a gift, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. So I hope and pray that this Easter you'll find the true meaning of what Easter and Christmas, and in fact, life itself is all about. God bless you.